So, Richard, I guess the first question is, was there anything suspicious, in your opinion, in the helicopter crash that took the life of the Iranian president?
Not in my opinion. An inquiry is underway, and it's always possible that something might emerge that gives rise to suspicion. But from everything we have heard so far, they failed to deal adequately with appalling weather in the situation near mountains that the convoy of helicopters found themselves in. One of the helicopters dealt with the problem badly. The other two were able to carry on to Tabriz in the proper way. So it was a crash as far as I can see.
Of course, there's been some finger pointing by some parties saying that it's the long-running sanctions Iran has faced that led to the fact, and of course Western instigated to a large degree, that led to the fact that Iran hasn't been able to get parts, replacement parts for aviation equipment such as the helicopters that we saw here. Is there any merit in that accusation that that there's been the sanctions have been behind a lot of the problems that Iran has faced, in this case, the crash?
Iran has tragically a poor record in aviation safety, and that does go back to sanctions and the difficulty of maintaining aircraft to the highest possible standards. And it's not just outsiders who've made this suggestion, but senior figures in Iran have pointed to this too. And it could be that the inquiry will come up with the thought that inadequate care was taken with the safety of the president.
Of course, there have been, a lot of crashes, as you mentioned. I was going to ask you that Ebrahim Raisi has always been described in the media as a kind of almost a catchphrase, a hardliner. And I wonder, in your opinion, what that really means and how that his absence now might change anything when it comes to Iran's policies.
It means that in their personal faith as a religious person and in their actions as a servant of the Islamic Republic, the individual in question believes ardently in the founding principles of the Islamic Revolution, the divine mission of the Islamic Republic, in carrying out the wishes of the founder of the Islamic Republic, Ayatollah Khamenei, and in adhering to the current leader of Iran, the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, in being obedient in carrying out his decisions faithfully and in a hard-working way. But all that set in Iranian terms, a conservative interpretation of what the ideals of the revolution should mean in day-to-day life. So divine revelation, social discipline, a single political line dictated by the supreme leader rather than political pluralism, ensuring that morality is enforced, and ensuring above all that no threats emerge to the dominance of the conservative strain of thought about the Islamic Republic and the long-term future of the Islamic Republic.
Many were very critical of him and his past track record, essentially, with executions and other things that were raised.
Yes.
Do you think there are many people that would miss him?
Not many. Certainly the servants of the Islamic Republic, as they see themselves, will miss him because he was one of the most distinguished from among their number. But he was unable to solve Iran's economic problems. He was in power when the suppression of the woman life freedom protest movement got underway. Before that, he was head of the judiciary at a time when the judiciary was handing out severe sentences for people who sought to challenge the system, or even for lawyers who sought to defend those who challenged the system. There were some signs of rejoicing. How large they were is impossible to tell, but we do know that the authorities took steps to prevent that showing itself on any scale in the immediate aftermath of the confirmation of Raisi's death.
Now, so Richard, the crash took the lives of 7 others, including the Iranian Foreign Minister, Hussein Mir Abdullahian. And I'm wondering how much that perhaps has added to the difficulties the Iranian government may face in maintaining its integrity, having lost 2 key people.
I don't think it will make substantial difficulties for the system of rule. The Supreme Leader has given a firm lead that everything has got to carry on as normal. And after all, it's a country of 88 million people with now long-established institutions, with leadership in depth, with cadres faithful to the revolution and to Ayatollah Khamenei, that can be drawn on to fill in behind people whose lives have been taken. I mean, in no society can you be absolutely confident that there would never be a shock like this leading to instability, but it does look as though continuity will be the order of the day, both in internal and external policy.
So, Richard, do you expect any kind of protest to take place, any kind of public dissent and vocalization during the upcoming elections?
Yes, I do. I think it'll be limited and I think it'll be suppressed. But the time has now elapsed since the Women's Life Freedom protest, and I find it hard to imagine a period of intense political activity around the election of a new president without some form, some manifestation of belief by particularly young Iranians that Iran must change and change soon.
Well, sir, as you indicated, the overarching power is the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and the power rests with him. And I wonder, with him being 85 years old now, fingers are being pointed, of course, in places like the US at the age of the incumbent president and those running as well. I wonder what, in your opinion, might be questionable about the soundness of judgment and decision-making that the Iranian leader might have at that age.
Well, if you allow for the fact that many people outside Iran don't agree with Iran's policies, so you can question whether the consistent pursuit of influence across its borders, its development of a civil nuclear technology, the many ways in which Iran has disputes with others, notably in the West, you could say, well, maybe for a long time now, the leaders of Iran have not shown good judgment. But if you ask yourself, well, how good is their judgment in carrying out their stated policies, namely starting with continued survival and then moving through to all these specialist areas, including regional affairs, then you would have to conclude that they play their cards well, and that under the leadership of Ayatollah Khamenei, whatever his age, the system is working effectively and judiciously. It's been unable to overcome the problems imposed by foreign sanctions. Inflation is ridiculously high, unemployment is high, migration of talent is high, corruption is high. So there are many problems that have not been solved, but there is no sign yet that I've detected that the Supreme Leader's judgment is faltering.
Sir Richard, as Ebrahim Raisi was the main candidate to be the successor for Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who would now be a potential contender for that position, and what would we know about them?
Well, I'm unwilling to say that Raisi was the favored candidate, and I'm unwilling to say who the alternatives might be. Outsiders don't know everybody in the senior circles of Iranian life. There may be people who are well regarded, who don't hit our headlines, and who may emerge as a result of the deliberations of the Council of Experts, 60 strong elected body, who are charged with finding the replacement at the right time. So it could be Mohammed Mukhbar, it could be Mujtaba Khamenei, one of the sons of the current Ayatollah. It could be somebody who's never been put in the frame so far. And I think it's pretty fruitless to speculate.
Do you know of any moderates, though, in the sidelines who might come forward?
The choice they face is, do we stick over the next period with the president and other senior leaders who come from this narrow group, or do we widen participation in the ruling group and bring back centrists like former President Rouhani, or people who, like Rouhani, have links to the reform tendency within the supporters of the Islamic Republic? The reform tendency came to be discredited because of the failures under Presidents Khatami and Rouhani to bring in any significant change to widen the basis of participation and increase observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms within the Islamic Republic. There is a case for shifting via the appointment of a new president through the next elections towards more participation, including centrists and reformists in the ruling group.
It'd be interesting to see. I'd love to get your take on an interesting analogy I heard by one analyst that said in Iran, the leadership aspires to be like North Korea, while the people aspire to be like South Korea.
Yes, that's not bad, except, of course, they call North Korea a hermit kingdom because it's largely disconnected from the rest of the world, other than through its close alliances with countries like China and Russia. Iran depends vitally on its links with the rest of the world for not only hydrocarbon trade, but also sale of its goods to neighboring countries and development of its transport links with India, gas supply to Pakistan, the new railroad project to go through the Caucasus region, the active policy with Azerbaijan of developing energy resources. The list goes on and on of ways in which the Iranian government wishes to integrate itself with a policy of good relations with everybody in the world, except those whom it regards as its enemies. And its enemies it regards to be Israel, the United States, and to an increasing extent, sadly, Britain and some other European countries.
Sir, I wonder, with all your years of experience with Iran, both as ambassador and then, of course, as an expert on Iran in the following decades, how surprised you are at the resilience of this country, in spite of the sanctions, in spite of all the efforts to try to kind of create some kind of pressure for change in the regime there. Its resilience, I wonder how much it surprised you and how much longer you think it can last.
It's a very difficult question to answer. When I was ambassador, I didn't think that they would still be run the way they are run at present. I thought that within that 20-year period, there would be very significant change. And I don't think I was alone in thinking that. We were wrong. I think Iran remains resilient. I think there will be a serious shock at the time of the death of the supreme leader. On the other hand, they've had so long to prepare for it that maybe the transfer of power to a new leader will be seamless and there won't be a shaking effect within society. I think that you can't sit as firmly and as hard on a whole people as the Iranian system sits on its people forever. So change will come, but it won't come as a result of action by outside powers. It can only come as a result of action by Iranians themselves. And at present, the risks for Iranians in promoting change from within the country vastly outweigh the likely rewards because of the strength of the grip of the Islamic regime. As you know, the external political figures from the Iranian diaspora, the vast Iranian diaspora, find it very hard to agree amongst themselves. There's no leader across the water waiting to exploit weakness within Iran shown by the Islamic Republic's authorities. There's no opposition organization, party, or leadership permitted within Iran. So there is immense frustration, there's immense resentment, there's sullen acquiescence, there's a sense that you have to go along with the regime because it's essential for your survival and that of your families and the future of your children. It's not a stable prescription for the long term, but in the short term, change doesn't appear to be on the doorstep.
Well, Sir Richard, as we kind of conclude this conversation, I note that we always, certainly from a Western perspective, look at Iran with a critical eye. As someone who knows the country well, what redeeming features do you see in it?
The yearning of Iranians for a better society in its broadest sense, from political participation through individual liberties, through religious tolerance. They have a tradition of working towards a democratic future going back a century or more. And that is an immense strength of the Iranian people. Secondly, the depth of Iran's history and culture, out of which comes learning and sensitivity to all kinds of artistic expression and wonderful, unparalleled craftsmanship. So Iran has the natural resources, it has the basic industries, it has the entrepreneurial spirit, it has the yearning within its soul for a better way of running the country, and one day that will be fulfilled.
Well, Sir Richard, I appreciate you giving us your perspective. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.